On Holocaust Remembrance Day, a Plymouth woman tells her remarkable story of surviving Nazi Germany. Plus, parents share their fears on the topic of school safety. But first, a reboot on the search for a new Osseo school superintendent. What the school district plans to do next. CCX News starts right now. Hello and thanks for joining us. The Osseo School Board needs some more time to choose a new superintendent to lead the state's fifth largest school district.
The district has been working since last fall to find a replacement for Kate McGuire, who is retiring at the end of June. And on Wednesday night, board members decided there wasn't enough support for either of the two finalists.
I do not feel like I have strong support for either candidate, and would be willing to look at other options. I don't know what that would look like.
I would also be supportive of taking another look. That's one of the things that the community seems to feel strongly about.
Out of the 28 people who applied for the job, it came down to finalists Eric Pruitt of Houston, Texas, and James Harris of Douglasville, Pennsylvania. Board Chair Mike Ostafi says any new superintendent deserves strong support.
They all had the ability to check a lot of the boxes off of what we were looking for in a new superintendent, but not all of them. So there would have been need to help them on board and support them throughout that process. And when I looked around and I saw what the other board members were thinking, I just didn't believe that there was the strong support to go through that process and to go with those particular candidates. We haven't had.
The board voted to put on hold any further work by a national search firm that had been hired and to look for an interim superintendent who can take the job before McGuire leaves.
We are looking for stability in this process. We have come down to where we are, and we're looking forward by saying we want to have stability while we regroup.
It is unclear how long an interim superintendent would be needed. The search process started 6 months ago.
At a Maple Grove church Tuesday night, parents shared fears, but also got some comfort on the topic of school safety. Second grade teacher Jessie Hansen helped organize the event after some families at her church expressed concern in the wake of recent school shootings across the country. She invited a school security expert from the Osseo district and a family therapist to speak. Hansen has a unique perspective on the issue. She's both a teacher and a parent of an 8th grader and a 5th grader.
When I see things on the news about school shootings, I was worried about both of them, but I think I spend more time as a teacher worrying about it, and in my classroom trying to imagine where we would hide or how we would get out if we needed to get out of a classroom in an emergency. So I think I'd say I spend more time worrying about it as a teacher than I do as a parent.
Hansen tells parents they are not alone in having fears, and events like this can help heal by connecting parents with each other.
It's estimated 50,000 sports-related concussions happen each year among Minnesota high school athletes. A conference in Brooklyn Center is taking a look at the concerns after a concussion. Dr. Karen McAvoy says students need to return to school after a concussion, but the recovery period for most kids is up to a month. So teachers might need to make some adjustments to a student's workload. McAvoy was a Colorado school psychologist back in 2004 when a student at her school got a concussion during a football game and died a week later when he went back to playing football. Dr. McAvoy says more focus is needed on the recovery and how it pertains to going back to school.
Parents and healthcare providers need to know that schools can support these kids there. So they need to send them back to school. We don't want healthcare providers holding them out for too long. We don't want parents being too anxious about those symptoms.
McAvoy started the website GetSchooledOnConcussions.com to offer guidance to educators and parents about handling the days after a concussion. Today is Holocaust Remembrance Day. 6 million Jews were slaughtered during that dark time in history.
A Plymouth woman survived living in concentration camps. Reporter Sonia Goins has her story of courage and survival.
I'm very fortunate. I have a wonderful family. I have 2 granddaughters.
You would never know from looking at 90-year-old Eva Gross the heartache and horror she faced growing up.
They came and they said, you have to get together and line up, and we were going to take you someplace.
At 16 years old, her innocence was taken away. In 1944, Eva and her mother and grandparents were forced to leave their home in Hungary. They were then put on a train headed for Auschwitz.
They pushed us all in there. The Germans always kept on yelling, fast, fast, fast.
The family was packed on trains like animals in hideous, unsanitary conditions.
The dead body would just stay and nobody to take care of it.
After about 3 days, they arrived to their destination.
And they opened the door. You would not believe how relief it was that you got some fresh air.
Armed SS guards lined Eva and her family up in lines. Even her mother lined up to the right and her grandparents on the left.
All the people on that side was immediately taken to the gas chamber.
The image of her grandparents being sent to their death is still vivid.
The picture you will never forget, my grandmother and grandfather holding hands and walking, and that was the last I have seen them.
Eva and her mother were moved to 5 different concentration camps during a year's time period. They had little food and were forced into hard labor.
We had to carry some big lump up on the hills.
Eva and her mother pretended they were not related so they could stay together.
Only thing that went through your head is how to survive day by day.
The two were eventually freed a year later when the war ended, but the freedom was bittersweet.
We had no clothes. They had blankets to cover us up.
At least 100 of her family members, including everyone in this picture, died in the camps.
There had to be a God who wanted us to survive, because the conditions what we survived, I think it was humanly impossible.
Eva shares her story so history won't repeat itself.
If we could eliminate hate out of our life, how much better this world could be.
Eva now travels the country sharing her story with others, and she enjoys spending time with her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. Still ahead, we'll take you to Champlin Park High School and introduce you to one of the leaders of the 6th Man Spirit Squad.
Plus, the Osseo-Park Center girls lacrosse team will have a lot of young talent this season, and we'll catch up with the team coming up in sports.
But first, a big turn in the weather. Rain arrives on Friday, turning to wet snow on Saturday. We'll be right back.
The city of New Hope is getting some help upgrading a park that is seeing some age. Basketball courts in Sunnyside and Beijing parks will be replaced with the help of a $25,000 Hennepin Youth Sports Grant. The money is part of the sales tax that is collected to pay off the Twins baseball stadium. The current play equipment at Sunnyside is the oldest in the city. Local residents offered input on what the new playground should include. The total cost is about $190,000. Well, tests aren't usually most students' idea of a good time, especially when it comes to statewide standardized tests.
But those tests, such as the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessments, are necessary to measure student progress towards state requirements. And as Delane Cleveland reports in today's School Spotlight, Champlin Park High School has come up with a clever way to get students excited about the MCA.
Every day, more than 2,900 students in grades 9 through 12 pass through the halls of Champlin Park High School. It's a school known for its diversity.
One of the things that makes Champlin Park very special to me is we have students coming from all walks of life.
Assistant Principal Chris Nelson says the demographics at Champlin Park are about 60% white and 40% students of color.
It's something that we're very proud of. Our students do an amazing job with being respectful and wanting to understand other walks of life.
1, 2, 3, revolution! The students here also do an amazing job of displaying school spirit.
Yeah, we have a very good amount of school pride.
Owen Trelstad is one of the leaders of the student cheering section known as the 6th Man.
For all like the football games and the volleyball games and basketball games and all the other varsity sports.
The group coordinates on a clothing theme and shows up at various school sporting events to cheer like crazy.
Yeah.
But Owen isn't just known for his school spirit. As part of a class, he helped the school promote the importance of the MCAs by showing off his singing and dancing skills in a music video.
Young man, there's no need to feel down.
So we ended up doing a cover of the song YMCA We rewrote the lyrics to that, and it was called Why the MCAs, or Try the MCAs, just telling people why you need to show up and why it's important to do it.
The MCAs are used to monitor school performance and set funding formulas, but the test scores also show up on students' transcripts.
What you should know is that it sure will show when you send in your high school transcripts.
Owen said the video was shown to the entire school to help motivate the students to do well.
See, PK, it really does matter. Watching a video from your peers, me as a senior and my other friends who did the video as well, it means a little bit more than just watching something up on a projector from a teacher.
School staff members would agree about the video's impact.
Each year the students come up with something bigger and better, and I have to say this one hit the mark.
Speaking of bigger and better, more than $16 million in improvements are on the way for this 26-year-old building, thanks to Anoka Hennepin voters.
We will start construction this summer, and the goal is to be done in a couple years, and we will have classrooms to alleviate our growing size, and we will be removing the portables in 2 years.
Exciting times for a school that prides itself on getting students prepared for the next stage of life.
These kids are going to go out making this world, this country a better place.
At Champlin Park, Delane Cleveland, CCX News.
And as Delane mentioned, scheduled improvements for Champlin Park include removal of those portable classrooms, additional classroom space, new science labs, and expansion of the strength and fitness room. And now we're going to be singing YMCA all day, right? Still ahead, something in Maple Grove to help make us forget about this chilly spring.
But first, a standout swimmer from the 1980s will be inducted into the Cooper High School Hall of Fame. John Jacobson has her story next in sports.
I'm John Jacobson with sports. This Saturday at Cooper High School, 2 people will be inducted into the school's Hall of Fame. Teacher Howard Schwartz we met earlier this week on CCX News. The other inductee was a record-setting athlete from the early 1980s. Heidi Rash's name still stands on the Cooper High School record board for girls swimming, some 37 years after her final stroke as a prep swimmer. Al Goodwin remembers. He was her coach.
Well, she's a wonderful athlete, and that certainly proves it, since she has 2 records at Cooper right now, and they still lasted from 1980 and 1981, says it all.
Rash holds the Hawk School record in both the 50 and 100 freestyle races. Heidi was an elite athlete who went on to swim collegiately at Louisiana State University.
Great teammate, great leader, wonderful young woman.
After college, Heidi coached youth swimming back here in Minnesota. But just after her 42nd birthday in the fall of 2005, she died of cancer, leaving behind a loving family and grieving friends.
She left us at a very inopportune time, a very young woman dying of cancer, which is such a tragedy. If there's anybody that deserves Hall of Fame at Cooper, it's certainly Heidi Rash.
The Hall of Fame ceremony is Saturday at 2 p.m. at Cooper High School. With most local squads having artificial turf fields, lacrosse teams in the area aren't going to have quite as many weather postponements as baseball and softball teams. As Jay Wilcox reports, the Osseo-Park Center girls lacrosse team is aiming for another good season.
It's a young team for Osseo Park Center, but there's good talent coming up through the program, and that has them excited.
I think our team this year has a lot of depth. We have a lot of girls that are at a really high playing level and a lot of girls that can improve their playing a lot and have a really good potential to be a really good team this year.
And the thing is, I think we have the most depth that we've ever had, which is good to see. We've got some girls that are going to be put into roles they haven't been in before, and we're kind of expecting a lot of them, but we're still pretty confident we'll have a pretty good year.
Among a good group of seniors lost from last season is Margot Coombs, a 64-goal scorer who is one of the better players in the state. No one player can replace her.
Yeah, Margot is a really great player. She was definitely the person who we ran most of our stuff through and our top goal scorer, but I definitely think that people will step up this year and take over her position. Maybe not be quite the strongest player as she was, but different people can fill that gap.
Osseo-Park Center was third in the Northwest Suburban Conference with an 8-3 league mark, and they lost in their section final for a third straight season. Getting over that hump is a big goal.
We've actually gotten the section final for 3 years in a row now, so I do think it gives us a little bit of confidence, another challenge to get past. We've only gotten to the second game, those times, but we haven't made it past that, and we still are looking for that.
Some young players will have to step into big roles, but the future is bright for the OPC girls. Jay Wilcox, CCX Sports.
The Crocs open the season Thursday evening against Elk River at Osseo High School. It's a good spring for indoor sports. The adapted softball season is underway for local teams. 2 from our area met in a PI division game. Osseo visiting Robbinsdale-Hopkins-Mound, West Tonka. The Robins grab the lead as Brendan Bosker-Elliott slashes a hit to left. Vincent Liu is the second of 2 runners to score on the hit as the Robins get 3 runs in the bottom of the first. In the second, Calvin Gert delivers a hit to left for the Robins. Madeline Oss scores, and Gert turns on the speed. He'll circle the bases as well. The Robins again get 3 runs to go up 6-0. Osseo gets on the board in the 4th inning. DeMont Cortez Bowie knocks a hit to right. Kirby Gilbertson comes around from second to score the Orioles' first run. But the Robins answer in the bottom of the 4th. Isaiah Joyner bounces one through the infield. Gert scores, and Joyner ends up on third base. And Lou follows with a hit to right that gets through. He'll circle the bases here and scores. The Robins go on for a 12-2 6-inning win. The Robins are hosting the Lloyd Olson Invitational Friday and Saturday at the Lindbergh Center at Hopkins High School. Wayzata, Minnetonka, Anoka, Hennepin, White Bear Lake, and Rochester will join the Robins in the tournament. That's it for sports. Alex and Mike, back to you.
All right, John, thank you very much. Well, coming up next, where the taste and smells help us forget about winter.
We are live at the Maple Grove Farmers Market when we come back.
Finally, a little something to brighten the mood with this expected dreary, snowy forecast coming up.
You are looking at the indoor farmers market in Maple Grove, which now has later evening hours. The farmers market runs from 3 to 7 tonight. That's Thursday evening. And there are 2 more indoor farmers markets remaining, April 26th and also on May 10th. And keep this in mind, nicer weather will come, of course, and the first outdoor Maple Grove farmers market starts on June 7th. And if you have never been over there, it is definitely worth checking out. They have 20 different vendors, sell a wide range of items, produce, of course, but also baked goods and some bath and body products. That does it for us. Thanks for joining us.
See you tomorrow.